All right. What up, guys? We're live. Um, so we have Ellison here, of course. He's running in Florida for the U.S. Senate against the turd in the punch bowl of Florida, Marco Rubio. um, so I thought I'd bring him on so we could talk about what he's up against and how he plans on succeeding in Florida, where we need some change, to say the least, to put it lightly. So thanks for joining us, Alan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on your show.
Yes. So what inspired you to run for the Senate against Marco Rubio, of all people?
Well, out of all people, Marco Rubio is the one person that's in the United States Senate from Florida that has not been there for the people. And he has not been there in a big way. When I look around Florida and I think about all of the people that have no representative, that have no leader in the Senate that's looking out for their interests, I just couldn't continue to sit on the sideline and do nothing. I believe that there are so many issues that affect so many people, and they need a champion that's willing to fight and raise awareness on the issues that matter most to them. Marco Rubio is simply not getting it.
Mm-hmm. All I've seen about Marco Rubio lately is complaining about Cuba. He seems to care more about Cuba than actual Floridians that voted him into office. He's being paid $174,000 a year to represent. So I find that quite disingenuous and dishonest and just a horrible representative for the people of Florida. I know I have several friends down there that are literally thinking about moving out of the state because the representation is that bad. They don't feel safe. Like the leadership is not safe. With death sentence DeSantis and Rubio, I mean, good Lord, what do you? It's not good. So I know people are like, it's de-incentivized to stay there. So I think that's bad for Florida as well. And I think it's really important we get better representation. And you got a long list of people in this race too. I looked it up on Ballotpedia, and I'm like, oh my God, there's a lot of people. So you have Val Demings, who's a U.S. Congresswoman running against for primary for the Senate now. How do you differentiate yourself from her as a Democratic candidate?
Well, the thing about me is that, I am the candidate that is really about improving the quality of life for everyone. I'm a political scientist, so I understand policy in some detail, but also I am the progressive candidate that not only do I look at how the progressive platform exists, but I have creative ways in how we actually pay for it. There's a lot of candidates that are in the race that do not agree with a lot of what America wants, and that is a progressive platform. But I think that we can get it. The thing is that a lot of times in the United States Congress, we're not able to move policy forward because of fear. And that fear exists on both sides of the aisle. Some people fear being taxed to pay for new programs. Some people fear having existing programs cut in order to pay for new programs. And oftentimes it's that fear that keep them in their own corners of the room. And so my stance, which is very different from every other candidate, is that we can have progressive policies that don't get us involved in either one of those situations that will allow people to continue to run into their opposite ends of the room. I want to be able to think outside of the box and bring out of the box solutions to some of our most pressing issues. So I'm a proponent of Medicare for all. I believe in a universal health care system. Other candidates in the race don't necessarily agree, and they don't believe that we can get it done. I believe that we can get it done. There are so many different ways to get this done. We could engage in public-private partnerships to be able to raise new revenue to pay for it. We could legalize cannabis across the country to generate new revenue to pay for it. We could balance our improper trade balance problem with other countries. start selling more than we're buying to generate new revenue to pay for it. We can engage in new relationships with countries that we're currently not doing business with and take their commodities and trade them on our international trading platforms to generate the revenue to do it. Notice everything that I said does not involve raising taxes on individuals, and it doesn't involve cutting existing programs. And so this is the out of the box type of thinking that I deal in order to have things like UBI, New Green Deal, making the investments in all of these different programs that a lot of politicians are too afraid to tackle. But this is what I went to school for. This is what I'm ready for, and this is why I'm running for the United States Senate.
Yeah, I actually just went to the Medicare for All March in Chicago and live streamed it, and did what I could to help support and stuff. So these are all worthy causes, and I consider myself more of a pragmatic humanist. Like, I want to help as many humans as possible, as efficiently as possible. And I think that healthcare is one of the most inefficient for-profit systems we have, next to prison, probably private prisons. But like, healthcare as a human right just seems too obvious. And I saw one of those, who was the Koch brothers, did a research into it, did a study, and it showed even their own biased research team said it saved $2 trillion in 10 years or something like that. And so for people to say it's not cost effective and how do you pay for it, that's silly to me. It pays for itself. And especially when it comes to drug costs, and you have a lot of seniors in your state. It's a retirement haven, and a lot of Cuban Americans in the south side of the southern states of the state that are traditionally very conservative. And I think we got to find a way to bridge that gap to say, I understand that you're conservative, but what policies affect you? And I think that's a good strategy to say it's not about left, right. It's just let's go forward. And I think it's a good point, because in such a huge field, you got to have a way to really stand out. I think you brought a good point that I'm not taking nothing from either side of the aisle, any kind of, like you said, cutting programs or inventing a new tax system or increase the taxes. I think it's interesting you said about the foreign trade with commodities. What type of commodities have you found that might work for the state of Florida?
Well, Florida, if you think about some of the commodities that exist, let's say Haiti, for example, they have a lot of bauxite, which is responsible for producing aluminum. We could easily make Haiti a trading partner with their bauxite or their minerals that could easily go into products that are sold in the United States that ultimately end up getting sold around the world. But if you think about history, there are countries that have engaged with other countries by trading their commodities that was very instrumental in making sure that the markets for both countries were stabilized. It's not something that we engage a lot in, but it's an option that if someone was thinking about ways to generate new revenue, it's an option that's on the table. But the problem is that we have too many politicians who are only there to do the bidding of whoever is paying them to be there, and they're not really thinking constructively about how to pay for a lot of these programs. And again, this is what I went to school for. This is what I studied, and this is what I want to be able to bring is comprehensive solutions to some of the most pressing issues of our day. I was also at one of those marches for Medicare for All, and there were so many stories from so many different candidates and how the insurance company has crippled the healthcare system. It is a shame that these for-profit entities have embedded themselves into our criminal justice system and the healthcare system in such a way where people are being hurt in the process. If we were to remove the insurance companies out of our healthcare system, it would put the power back in the hands of the people and their doctors. We don't need insurance companies helping to make decisions about patient health. We need to make sure that we are increasing healthcare quality, because right now healthcare quality for patients is not that good with insurance company involvement.
No, I'm a healthcare professional, and I'll tell you what, That's the last people want to talk to is healthcare. They
Mm-hmm.
make decisions for us as clinicians on your care. You have a car accident and you've broken A, B, C, and D, and they say, okay, we'll give you 12 visits. Based upon what information?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about your health outcomes. It's more about their
Bottom line.
their productivity of their profits. They take
Mm-hmm.
in money, they give out as little as possible, typical insurance. But that's what the biggest that's one of the biggest hurdles we have in this world on this planet is that we're one of the few countries that don't have nationalized health care. We're one of two countries that don't have federally backed paid time off.
Mm-hmm.
The United States and Papua New Guinea. That's a great statistic. There's only two countries that don't have over 2 weeks, and that's the United. We don't even have it. We have
Mm-hmm.
no federally protected paid time off. Little things like that. I think that goes a long way to say that we're really behind on the times ideologically and politically. I mean, policy wise, at least. So I think that the big thing is I want to talk about is just your policy page is outstanding. First of all, I'd like to kind of go through them all if you want, and start top left and we'll work our way across. So, what's your stance with women's rights in Florida?
Well, I tell you, there are a lot of issues that are affecting women's rights. I know back in 1963, under the Equal Pay Act, it became illegal for women to make less than men for the same work. Also in 1964, it was also made illegal further under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Title VII. But both of those laws, they don't have enough teeth to force employers to pay women fair wages or equal pay for equal work. And so one of the things that I want to be able to do is to create a commission that actually investigates these employers, because we have found that women are being paid 77 cents on the dollar to date in 2021. And for African American women, they're being paid as much as 66 cents on the dollar as a man is being paid. And so I want to create a commission through an act of law that investigates every employer in the United States to determine if they are paying women less for the same work. And if they are found to be violating the existing laws that are already on the book, then I want these companies to be able to give these women back pay. And I want to be able to do it and go back 30 years, because that is about how long it has been. It's actually been longer than that. It's actually been about probably 40, 50 years. But I want to go back 30 years and get back pay for these women, because in America, we have a situation where women are now mostly at the head of the household. A lot of them are taking care of families alone. And as Dr. King said, if you start off in a race behind, if you're going to win the race, either the person ahead of you is going to have to slow down, or you're going to have to keep up or catch up. But if neither one of those dynamics change, then you will forever be behind. And right now, we just need to work on leveling the playing field for our women, because, my mother was someone who was being paid less than her male counterparts, and she was having to raise 7 children on less. And so I don't want that for my daughter. I don't want that for your daughters. I don't want that for our mothers, our sisters. And so they deserve what's fair. And I think that a bill like that would help millions of women along with millions of families. And I'm the only candidate that's talking like that.
Outstanding. Well, the next one you got down here, one personal to me, because I am a veteran, is Veteran Affairs. You have a Veteran Affairs page here. What's your stance with the Veteran Affairs policy?
Well, first of all, I want to start off by talking about the fact that there are 22 veterans dying by suicide each and every day. The gentleman who originally brought this stat to my attention was a veteran himself. He told me that he came up with a way to help curb the veteran suicide rates. And it's a very simple process by changing the discharge process in the military
Mm.
to do more screenings, to provide more resources, and to create a network for individuals who are leaving the military to be able to become gainfully employed with the skills that they have learned, but also being able to monitor those who may be experiencing some type of post-traumatic stress. And there's other factors that go into the veteran suicide piece. But he came up with this policy proposal, and he took this policy proposal to 80 members of Congress. And out of the 80 members of Congress, 40 of them were veterans themselves. And not a single one of them took this policy proposal up to try and make it become the law in an attempt to curb veteran suicide. And so he brought it to me and he asked me if I would be the champion for this issue. So I told him that I would. So I created a petition because I know that in order to bring about change on any issue in the United States Congress, you have to bring a coalition with you. So I've been trying my best to build a coalition of people who believe that we should do our part to curb the rate of suicide among our veterans. I fundamentally believe that if someone goes to bat for you, then you should at least be willing to go to bat for them. And our veterans are individuals who have put their lives on the line for our rights and for our freedoms. And so I want to do my part to raise the awareness on how serious of an issue this is. And a lot of our veterans are actually dying by suicide at VA clinics in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And it's a phenomenon that's taking place across the country. I want to make sure that for our veterans that they can go anywhere, not just to certain VA hospitals or VA clinics to get service, because for my uncle, we have to travel 3 hours to get to a facility because there's not one where we live. And so, you know, access to care is essential for our veterans. Also, I want to be able to make it where they have access to medical records that are readily available, so they don't have to, you know, wait so long before they can see someone because the medical record system is so far behind. We want to bring all of that up to the 21st century and make it uniform and create a system where it's readily accessible so they can get the help and care that they need. But yeah, I'm the only candidate, again, that is actually advocating for a policy to curb the rate of veteran suicide.
So 80 members of Congress were approached, 40 that were veterans, and 0 takers.
0 took action.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll say thank you as a veteran on my behalf and all the people I served with and are currently serving right now, man. This is despicable. I mean, that's the only word I can think of, just despicable. Like you said, 22 a day. That's a number that sticks in my head. I'll never forget that number. And, you know, I've known some people, you know, in my area that's, you know, this affliction. I think that's another thing that goes along with legalizing marijuana, legalizing hallucinogenics for healthcare within the VA system. Again, Medicare for all, legalized marijuana, and hallucinogens. You've already curbed it if you start, because the idea to me is if we have Medicare for all, the VA is in network automatically. They can go to any hospital you want to. You wouldn't have to drive your uncle three hours.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have to go 30 miles, long enough 3 hours to get the care that you have earned. You know, that's why I say every veteran writes that blank check. You write a blank check, you don't know what it's worth yet. What's it going to cost you as an individual? And sometimes it's everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and for too many, it's everything. And so I just want to say thank you for that, because that's a great stance you're taking, and I think that does, again, differentiates you between the candidates. That's the big thing that says
this year,
but none of them are doing these things right here. So I think it's very important.
Well, that's the other thing that separates me. I'm not here to talk about what I'm going to do when I get into the United States Senate. I'm actually taking action right now. I'm the only candidate in the race, and maybe even in the country, that has already held 3 town halls on this very subject. I'm probably the only candidate that has held town halls since I've been running on every issue there is, including the Cuban issue. We just had a town hall last night on the Cuban issue.
Mm-hmm.
But I hold these town halls, one, to raise awareness on these issues because they matter to millions of individuals, but also I hold these town halls because I believe in the power of political and civic engagement, and it also gives me the opportunity to learn something that I didn't know before. And I fundamentally believe that if you don't know who I am, if you don't know what keeps me up at night, if you don't even care, then how are you going to represent my interests? So it is important to me that I hear from people on the issues that matter to them because, you know, in my political science education, I have found that there are 55,000 different issues, all of which are important to someone. And the more we get a chance to converse about these issues, the more we can learn, the more we can grow. And then when I become the United States Senator, I will have the best possible opportunity to make policy that will impact the lives of as many people as I desire to do. My goal is to make positive impact.
I love it. So next is, what's your stance on the environment?
You know, the environment is a very broad and comprehensive topic. But for the environment, I would just say this. We deserve and our children deserve to live in an environment where the air is clean, where the water is clean, where the physical environment, like the rainforest and all of those things, are protected because they play a vital role in our ability to survive on this planet. When it comes to climate change, you know, I always want to point out, because there are always people that are talking about global warming doesn't exist. And for some, in their mind, the rationale is that it's cold in North Dakota today. Therefore, global warming is just a Democratic hoax. So for those people who believe that global warming does not exist because we have cold days, I want them to understand that that in which they are speaking of is not climate, that is weather. Weather is what takes place on a day-to-day basis. It's the atmospheric pressure on a day-to-day basis. Climate, however, is what weather is on a 30-year span. So if you were to calculate what the weather is today to determine if global warming exists, you're probably not going to get the right answer. But if you take a 30-year span of what weather is doing, then you can see that the earth is getting hotter. And if we don't take a serious stand, and I do support the New Green Deal, particularly for this issue, the New Green Deal is a very aggressive policy that looks to protect our environment, but it also looks to do other things like secure civil rights and things of that nature. But in terms of environment, what it looks to do is to curb our carbon footprint by at least 2.7%. And for some people who think that that's insignificant, let me just share with you that an increase in our atmospheric pressure by 2.7% does this. The earth becomes hotter. There are certain food crops that cannot grow in temperatures with just that level of an increase.
Yep.
And so science have shown, the research has shown that a 2.7 increase will reduce food production by 40%. Food production, heat waves, we just lost 70 people last week because of the heat wave. This heat wave that can come from a 2.7% increase coupled with the food reduction of 40% can kill off 100 million people globally.
That's change.
Okay? The other factor is that if we don't start working to protect our environment with global warming, the polar ice caps are melting. And for some people who say that, oh, what's the big deal? You know, have more water. when the water levels rise with a 2.7% increase, so does our sewer systems. And our sewer systems in America are already old, dilapidated, and really swollen to the point that we are experiencing over 900,000 tons of raw sewage seeping out onto America's streets. That is a recipe for all things bad. That is something where an environmental catastrophe could easily become another health epidemic or a pandemic. Okay, we've seen it before in world history with the bubonic plague, where an environmental concern became a pandemic. And so we have to look at all of these things, and protecting the environment is so it's such an important thing, especially when it comes to our waterways. I live here in Florida. When I was a kid, Lake Okeechobee, which is the largest lake in Florida, it was one of Florida's marvels. It was something to be proud of. I was just looking today on Google Images, and if you just Google Lake Okeechobee and start looking at images, it won't be long before you start to realize that the name for Lake Okeechobee is now Pollution Lake. It has so much pollution in it from industry runoff, so much pollution from toxic blue-green algae blooms, so much pollution from household sewer waste, and you can literally see the waste from an aerial view. So if you ever get a chance to Google Lake Okeechobee, please take a look at that. We have no one in our state, from the governor to the senators, who's working to try and clean up Lake Okeechobee. The reason is, and it's the reason for a lot of the lack of positive movement on any policy in the state of Florida, is because of how these big polluters and major corporate donors are basically just buying off the politicians. And so you're not going to hear the congressman for District 17, where Lake Okeechobee is, and that congressman's name is Greg Steube. You're not going to hear Greg Steube holding big polluters accountable, because he gets large campaign checks from them. You're not going to hear Marco Rubio talk about this. You're not going to hear Rick Scott talk about it. You're not going to hear Ron DeSantis talk about it, because all of these individuals are getting their money from these big polluters. And so I don't take money from big polluters. So I'm not beholden to them, so that when I am in the United States Senate, I can work to hold them accountable.
So where'd the other one go? There it is. Sorry. So the next one you have down here is people with disabilities. I'd like to hear what you guys say, because you do have an aging population in your state, and our country is also aging.
Mm-hmm.
We have a major retirement crisis coming in the next 15, 20 years, where the boomers are going to be out, man, and it's going to be a lack of providers, I guess you say, like healthcare providers.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to have enough emergency room physicians. We're not going to have enough orthopedic surgeons. They're all aging. So I'm really interested in what you got to say about the retirement demographic, for people. I'm sorry, with people with disabilities. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'll take care of both of them in one shot. I live in a county.
Yeah.
I live in a county where it's one of the largest retiree counties in the state. And as you were speaking of, when it comes to geriatric services, there is already not enough. It's already not enough doctors to go around. I deal with a lot of elderly people here in this county, and it's sad to know that when their rheumatoid arthritis flares up, or when something is bothering them, if they need a hip replacement or a knee replacement, or any type of service that that people in that age demographic is looking for, sometimes they have to wait. Like, I have an aunt right now, she needs a knee replacement. She just had a hip replacement, but now she needs a knee replacement, and she's gonna have to wait. And she's in pain, she can barely get around, and it's just sad. But when it comes to the issue of disabilities, I wanna point out, again, and this is the third issue, where I am the only candidate with a disabilities platform, probably the only candidate in the country running for the United States Senate. This is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. My mother was a special needs and disabilities instructor. I've actually set up several 501c3 nonprofits to help aid people living with disabilities. In America right now, there are 61 million people living with a disability. In Florida, there are 2.8 million people living with a disability.
That's 5% of our entire population is disabled. Oh,
5%, 5% of Florida's population and about 26% of the national population. But here's the thing: these are the individuals who have already gone through the system of being deemed, not only deemed, but also getting their benefits. And those benefits are not a lot. And I want to point that out because it goes to my next point. I want to increase the amount of resources that people with disabilities are receiving, because what they're getting is not enough. If you're talking about people who are 100% disabled, they're not in a position to bring in the kind of resources to pay their monthly obligations. And a lot of these individuals fall behind. They get stressed out. There's another demographic of people who have been deemed disabled by a medical physician, but are constantly being denied disability benefits by administrators, some of which are being denied up to 8 years. Okay? If you can't work because you're disabled and your bills come due every single month and you have no revenue coming in, it is enough to make a person become stressed out. And that stress, they say stress can burst the pipe.
Yep.
That stress is enough to cause further health problems. People, and let me tell you about stress. There's a thing in science called osmotic shock or osmotic stress, and it's basically stress at the cellular level. When you are stressed out, you ever notice how you get this lump in your throat, neck starts to hurt, maybe even your head may hurt? Do you know what's actually going on right then? The very thing that is stressing you out is causing you not to breathe properly. And if you're not breathing properly, that means that you're not pushing oxygen through your bronchial tubes that places oxygen in your erythrocytes, which takes oxygen to the rest of your body. If it's not doing that because you're too stressed out to even breathe, ultimately you're killing yourself. And imagine basically having asphyxiation because of something that is weighing your mind down so deeply, so hard that you literally begin to kill yourself. Cellular stress or osmotic shock is at the foundation of all deaths. All deaths. Another term for it is called dehydration. Dehydration is whenever you have a lack of oxygen and electrolytes in your erythrocytes, which are your red blood cells. So if we as a country are not thinking about the whole health of our people, if we're not thinking about people in that way, then we are part of the problem. And I want to be a part of the solution. I'm thinking about those individuals who are disabled. I'm thinking about the quality of their life. I'm thinking about everyone's quality of life. And that's why our theme of our campaign is improving the quality of life for everyone, not just the people who look like me, not just the people who are in my party, but improving the quality of life for everyone. And what that means is that I'm going to have to be out here working as hard as I can to understand what everyone is going through so that I can be the most, so that I can be the best, most effective senator in the United States Senate.
So on your page, it says one of your things that says you stand for this policy is fighting to stop Americans from being denied benefits after board certified physicians has determined eligibility. What kind of policy can we do that has enough teeth to really give the power back to the physicians? You know what I mean? Like, what does that look like? So I've really been thinking about that. I can't really think of a legislative policy that would be like, just take all the power back to the provider, not the administrators of these programs in government or whatever.
Well, we're saying two things at once. the way you give physicians back the power, and not only the physicians, you're giving the power back to the people,
Yeah.
so that the physicians can do their job. That's what we want to do. Universal healthcare system can do that. When it comes to the other aspect of the administrators and how we can stop them from denying, the only reason they're denying is because there's limited resources. So that's why I want to be able to increase the investments for disability recipients. And I don't want to have to cut any existing programs for anything that I want to do. I don't want to have to raise taxes on individuals to make this happen, because fundamentally I don't believe in taxing individuals. It's a burdensome process, and not every government in the world use taxation to pay for things. I think we just need to be more creative in how we generate our revenue. And if there are countries that are doing it and they're not the superpower, then we can definitely put some creative and brilliant minds together to come up with a way to do this. Even if it means taxing entities like companies that sell our privacy data. We might can tax those and take those revenues and increase the investments into disability recipients, so that those administrators can stop denying them. It's a ratio. It's a numbers game. They know that if they deny a certain amount of individuals, then some people are going to die off, and then they can make room for those. And it shouldn't be that way, because it's really a game that allows individuals to fall through the cracks, and it hurts people.
Yeah. And so that actually moves on to your next policy is the healthcare system, where if we had universal healthcare, a lot of these problems become self-correcting rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where right now the tail's wagging the dog. It's not the other way around. So I want to get your thoughts on that. 'Cause I saw that in your page that you're trying to extend ACA, but also work towards universal healthcare and a single payer. I think does it say single payer on your page?
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. The website, we're going to make some updates. I've come a long way since the time I wrote that.
Okay.
But where I am right now is a Medicare for all system, or a universal healthcare system. Mm-hmm. One that I want to be able to pay for through the creative revenue streams that I want to bring to the table. And again, some of those are public-private partnerships. And when I say public-private partnerships, I'm not talking about what we have now with companies that deal in the healthcare industry. I'm talking about our government partnering with companies to do business in other countries, making those types of investments, opening up our resources. Like, for example, we have 191 relationships around the world. If you look at, and this is just an example, I don't propose that the government partners with Amazon, but I just want to use Amazon as an example. Mm-hmm. Our government brings in a little over $3 trillion a year, but we spend out a little over $4 trillion a year. So we're always behind. Amazon makes a profit of about $3 trillion a year, and they're always ahead. So that means that Amazon is making more money than our government. But Amazon is not everywhere. They're not in every country. They're not in every country where we have relationships. Mm-hmm. So this is just an example. Imagine if our government were to partner with a company like an Amazon and open up trade relations with countries who we have relationships with, and be able to generate a piece of revenue from that relationship. That new revenue could be used to pay for a lot of these programs. There are countries that generate all of the country's revenue that they need by doing that type of stuff. Saudi Arabia, they have the 2030 vision. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the 2030 vision for Saudi Arabia is a vision that the government has by making investments into industries and using the revenue that they generate from those industries to take care of the obligations of their government. Right now, their government is taken care of by the revenue that they generate from oil. But because they know that oil is a finite resource and that it can't sustain their future economy, they are making the investments into industries right now to secure their future economy. If we take that same approach, we don't even need to tax our people, and we can have every program that the people want. And the people want a universal basic income. The people want a universal healthcare system. And the people should be able to get it in the greatest nation on earth. We just have to vote out all of those individuals who say that we can't have it. We have to first agree that we should have it. Once we agree that we should have it, then the work starts about how do we do it. And they're stopping the process before they even had the conversation.
Yeah, they're being gatekeepers of our fundamental rights. Like, they're restricting our rights fundamentally at the gate. Like, nah, we don't think so. Even though over 60% of Americans agree with reoccurring stimulus checks during the pandemic, over 66%, including Republicans, including independents, support universal health care. I mean, think about that. 66%. You can't get this country to agree on much of anything. And those are two huge ones. Huge.
Well, see, the problem is, and this is why I don't bash Republicans, because I understand that there's a difference between Republican voters and Republican senators and Republican members.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the members and the senators are actually voting against the voters themselves. They're voting against their interests, the people's interests. And so oftentimes, and this is what campaigning is. Campaigning is educating. And I spend a lot of time trying to educate people, because I believe a better educated voter is going to vote for better politicians. So I want to always be able to educate the voters about how their leaders are working against their interests. So if you are a Republican and you happen to be on disability, well, guess what? A lot of times Republican leaders are constantly going after disability benefits because they feel like they want to take those funds and put them towards something where they can generate under the table money in the form of a dividend check based on the stock that they may own in some defense contracting firm or some private prison.
A privatized UBI.
Exactly. So if voters can understand how they play the game, then the voters will generally vote better.
Yeah.
And so that's why I spend so much time having these discussions. And it's also the reason why we're winning on the grassroots movement to retire Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have a backing from the party. They've chosen who they want to back. I don't have access to mainstream media, you know, the CNNs, the MSNBCs.
Yeah.
I don't have what some would call the name recognition. I don't have the experience. But you know what? When it comes to experience, 235 years ago, when the framers of our Constitution was trying to come up with the criteria for the United States Senate candidates, they came up with 3 criteria. One is you have to be an American citizen, you have to be of a certain age, and you have to live in the state that you want to represent. The issue of experience came up, none of which agreed that experience was the key factor that was needed. You know what factor they brought up that was really needed? It was character. So when you think about the fact that there are 12 current U.S. senators who have zero and no legislative background, and people love these individuals, then you understand that experience is not the thing that you need. The other thing is, in the last 2 incoming freshman classes of Congress, only 41% of the freshman class in 2 election cycles had legislative and political experience.
Yeah.
We have a very diverse population, and it takes a diverse group of leaders to represent that diverse group of our population. And so I have seen where an individual in 2008 came into a presidential race, and I have seen where the party put their support behind another candidate. I have seen where that same candidate had more experience, that same candidate had more access to money, had more name recognition, but that other candidate had a very strong message of hope and change. And that candidate's message was resonating with people. And if the party had saw earlier that there was something different about that individual, that person would have gotten the support much earlier than before the primary. And so that is where we are right now. We're leading on the grassroots movement because I am the most engaging and the most responsive candidate running for the United States Senate. I am the most engaging because I believe that educating our voters is essential, but I'm the most responsive because I know that people are tired of having representatives and senators who don't respond to their needs. And I want to set the bar extremely high.
Yeah. They're too busy in Congress trying to talk about bathroom bills and what we're doing in Cuba and what we're doing in the Middle East. And, you know what I mean? Like that just baffles me that
They're pandering.
it's such a inefficient body.
Mm-hmm.
That's truly frustrating because I don't know, man. Like it's designed to work, but we have these new rules that we keep adding and murking the waters with filibusters and with all these different things where the minority party gets to block stuff. The whole system needs a serious. Like I'm a proponent of an updated 21st century Bill of Rights, a true Bill of Rights that says no matter your gender, your age, your sex, no discrimination for any reason whatsoever. I don't give a crap if you want me to call you. If you're a pine tree, then I'm gonna call you Mr. Pine Tree. You know, I don't care. You have rights, inalienable rights, undeniable rights. I think it's very important because you have a whole policy on that as far as the LGBTQ community, as well as immigration reform that and education technically that addresses those types of things where it's like these policies that determine if you're good enough is just called means testing.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you put a means test in, it's meant to exclude, to save money, to exclude to other people. And that's what we're really having right now is this non-bipartisan thing where it's this real tribal you lose, we lose thing, you know. And I really hope that we get more people like you in there that's thinking farther than the tip of their nose.
Mm-hmm.
Like Florida's the perfect example of the state, the people put $15 an hour on the ballot and voted for it. But they voted for a governor and the senator doesn't reflect those values.
Mm-hmm.
I'm baffled. And that's because of tribalism. It's not because of policy. It's not because of experience. Experience only matters when you're the incumbent. You don't hear about experience till you're the incumbent. Everyone else is like, you know, so the experience thing is it's a weak point they make is you need experience. Like what experience did you have running you ran a pharmacy? What makes you a candidate for Senate? Because you're a pharmacist? Like that makes no sense. Because you're a lawyer? That makes no sense. It's all about right now, unfortunately, it's about raising money and getting your name out there. Like you're saying, name recognition is huge. And having the support of the national powers, you know, in the U.S. Congress or in the U.S. Senate race is very overwhelming. But if there's anything Bernie proved and Andrew Yang proved that we can overcome all the bullshit. If we decide we're going to do it, we should do it. That's why I think it's important for people like you and others to get out here and get recognition. I think it's awesome that you're doing public forums like that. I would like to even get those and put those on a trickle and have a whole page of all your stuff just you guys want to see what he's doing, here's a link right to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing you've done. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Jobs, the economy, you've kind of touched on. What's your stance on that one? Like, you got anything different about that?
What subject was that?
It's the jobs and economy section.
Yeah, when it comes to jobs, we have lost so many jobs, um, not only due to COVID-19, but we have lost jobs due to the rise of companies like Amazon that have literally put mom and pop businesses and some national retailers out of business. And so,
That's by one.
yeah, I'm a huge proponent of entrepreneurship. And so one of the things that I want to be able to do is to streamline the SBA and make it easier for individuals who are interested in starting businesses and for individuals who have small businesses to get access to those funds without having to go through all of the red tape. Um, my background is comprehensive, but one of the things that I've done in life was I've helped the establishment of over 400 businesses. And I've helped people to go through the process of getting access to SBA funding. And I know that a lot of times the types of questions and the time that it takes to go through that process, it's daunting and it deters more people than it actually helps. The SBA is generally getting about $2 billion a year for the purpose of lending to small businesses. And so to have that type of money made available to people and then to deter them with so much paperwork and red tape, it's something that I definitely want to be able to streamline and make it much easier and much faster to get small business owners and entrepreneurs access to those funds, primarily because the very thing that stimulates and really runs our economy is small businesses. And our economy pretty much runs and stimulates the global economy. So we really should be doing a whole lot more to help small businesses and help those small entrepreneurs who want to start businesses grow, because the thing about businesses is that you can start a business today and through proper management, proper marketing, proper capitalization, that business can easily grow into a business that is employing people. I mean, if you think about companies like Amazon, they were not around 30 years ago, but look how many people they employ. Yeah. Look at companies like Google and all of these tech giants and just companies that have grown in such a short time frame. Imagine if we were to create an environment, not only in our government, but also at the education level, to stimulate business development. I think that we should have a small business development council on every single college and university in the country, because there is someone out there, some bright young mind, somebody who has the next great idea, but if it's not stimulated, that idea may never come into fruition. As far as jobs, I believe that we definitely need to make sure that there is a minimum of a thriving wage in this country. Yeah. People are not stimulated or inspired to go out and work for these jobs at the rate that they're being paid now. It's ridiculous.
When they're being subsidized by taxpayers' money for corporate greed.
Exactly.
Who wants to be a part of that system? Nobody wants to be the part of that system.
Exactly. So, when it comes to stimulating our economy through jobs and the jobs and the economy, I favor having a universal basic income system to help subsidize what a lot of Americans don't have right now, especially in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. We really need to shut down, especially here in Florida. But it is very difficult to tell businesses to shut down and the government doesn't step up to help them out financially. It's difficult to have people stay home until we can get beyond this pandemic and the government isn't stepping in to provide some type of universal basic income. Both universal basic income and universal health care exists in some type of form in every single developed country in the world. And there are 33 developed nations. They all have some type of system, whether it's a wage subsidy, a universal basic income, or a universal healthcare system of some type. America is the only one of those countries that don't. And the problem is that there is too much money in politics. And basically what I'm saying is there's too many corporate entities that are dictating to our leaders in Congress by putting money into their campaign coffers. And it makes it very difficult for these leaders to actually push for policies that the people want, because they're too busy pushing for policies that the corporations and the corporate interests want. And that's why I support For the People Act, because there is a provision in that act that deals with campaign finance reform. If we can deal with that one issue, it will remove all of the noise that our members of Congress are having to deal with. The other thing that it will do is it will force candidates to have to shine based on their policy skills and not based on who can raise the most money. Because I'll tell you this, just because a candidate can raise more money doesn't mean that them raising that money is going to have any benefit to you in your everyday life.
Right.
Think about it. Marco Rubio raised $56 million in his last campaign. How did that translate into any benefit for you, the person, the voter, the constituent? It doesn't benefit you at all. It makes them look good. And that's what I want to tell people. You know, if you spend all of this time in Congress, Marco Rubio, out of all of the candidates running for the United States Senate, Marco Rubio has the most experience. Again, what good is that experience if it's not working for you? So experience is not the factor, it's character of heart. Who has the heart? Who has the character? Who actually desires to improve the quality of your life? And who is actually putting together creative ideas and policy positions to make that happen? I want to make that happen on day one. I don't want to wait and try to figure this out. I've had plenty of time. I graduated from Florida Southern College in political science in 2007. I've been looking at this for that long and how to fix these problems. And so the only way we're going to get to that is if you do elect someone like me or me.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a great comment here from Nikolai, Democracy Dollars, publicly funded elections. The last 2020 election was $14 billion in donations that are on the books. Let's put it that way. $14 billion. That could, I mean, come on, man. That could help a lot of people.
Exactly.
During one of the worst pandemics and economic crisis, we have people getting $14 billion to run for office. Bring no value. No value to the people whatsoever. The only value they bring is to advertisers.
You know what? I said this today to someone. If most people in Florida and most people in the nation cannot put their finger on policy that has had a positive impact in their life, but you know what people can do? They can tell you all the policies that they should have that would impact their life.
Yep.
And for some reason, it's not translating to those members of Congress to push for those policies so that the people can get what they want. You know, at the end of the day, this is really a partnership. To be a representative, to be a senator, it is a partnership with the people. It is kind of like an agency. I used to be a sports agent prior to becoming a politician. An agency relationship is a relationship where one person represents the interests of another person. Our members of Congress are not representing the interests of the people.
No, they're corporate agents.
That's who they're representing.
Military industrial agents.
Exactly. The people need to understand this. because once they start to understand it, they're going to start voting differently. And it's a shame that you can be in office for 30 years and the only accomplishment you have is a personal gain, and it's not one for the people.
Hey, man, you got that right, because you got people like Pelosi, Schumer, Rubio, Moscow Mitch. Their individual value is exponential, and that's a tell. That's why I always tell people, well, I've been in Congress for 12 years. I know I have experience. I'm like, yeah, you have experience with corrupt politicians. That's not good experience. You have experience working the system with corrupt politicians. How is that a good thing? You understand how to be corrupt?
Yep.
Like,
it makes sense. What good is the experience if it's not working for the people? And you know what's really sad?
That's what we need. Boys, get out there and protest. Let them suckers know you do not respect their positions that do not represent you as the people.
Exactly.
I have Upton in my area. He's actually one of the most bipartisan Republican congressmen in Congress. Fred Upton, been there for 34 years now. But what has he done for our district?
Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Whirlpool's headquarters is in my district. And it's not by accident. Fred Upton is the heir of the Whirlpool Corporation. Whirlpool's done well for the past 4 years. It's not a bug; it's a feature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your elected official is the heir of Heinz ketchup, guess what? The ketchup's gonna look real nice. You should invest in ketchup. You know what I mean? Like it's so obviously corrupt. Obviously not representing a single person in that thing in your district when it comes right down to you look at their donors and they get 75% of their donors of that $14 billion from corporate donations, which have less strict regulations on them. The regulations from grassroots donors have strict regulations. We can only donate $2,700 an election cycle to the general whatever, right? There's always very specific ones. But the corporate donors have unlimited PACs they can donate to. Unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem, you know? But anyway, I can complain about that all night. Yeah. Let's look at your next policy. The gun safety. Gun safety, yes. So let's talk about your gun policy, your stances.
Well, for the most part, I support all of the Brady campaign's policies, but also I want to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to protect our families, our children in the school systems. We need to do a better job with tightening up those background checks, making them universal. There's always a lot of talk about Chicago, especially from people on the right.
Only the South Side.
Yeah, it's like they always got to bring up Chicago as being the highest crime capital of the world and all these different things, and they have the toughest gun laws. But you know what? They may have tough gun laws, but a lot of times they have found out that the majority of the guns that are used in Chicago have come from neighboring states.
Yeah, Indiana.
So we have to tighten up our universal background check system to make it, or the check itself is universal. It goes across every state, but also every state should have the same protocol, and that doesn't exist. So I would be one of those senators who would be definitely voting for mandatory universal background checks as well as a universal protocol. The other thing we have to take a look at is the rise of guns on the streets that are being manufactured in the homes with these 3D printers. We are starting to see a rise in homicides with these particular weapons that are being used. So we need to start tracking any and all sales of 3D printers, because if individuals are buying these printers and they're not trying to start a industry or a business, then we need to know what they're doing with those weapons. We need to definitely tighten up how people are able to get weapons at some of these gun shows and online. I mean, right now in this county, people can go to a gun show and buy guns and ammunition and not have to go through a background check at all. So we have to make sure we tighten up those. But the main thing is, again, we have to get these corporate interest groups out of our politics.
NRA.
The NRA, I mean, I remember when the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas situation was happening and there was a town hall meeting. Marco Rubio was one of the panelists for that meeting. And I remember when Cameron asked him that question, he said, if we were able to raise enough money for you that would equal that in which you were getting from the NRA, would you continue to take the NRA's money or would you work for our interests? And Marco Rubio said, I would take money from anyone who aligns with my agenda. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that the relationship between representative and constituent and senator and constituent is like a partnership. It's like an agency. If you're not representing the interests of your principal, the constituent or voter, then why are you in office?
Right.
Because the office doesn't require you to look out for the interests of corporate interest groups. In fact, you only have 3 jobs. One of those jobs is to write laws, the other one is to vote on laws, but the other one is constituent services. So how are you looking out for your constituents when you're in a conflict of interest relationship? And yet, and that conflict of interest relationship is the very reason why most of our members of Congress are not working for the people.
People get upset with me when I say that the NRA is a racist domestic terrorist organization. I bring up the most qualified point is Philandro Castile.
Mm-hmm.
He was shot by the cops, a card-carrying member of the NRA with his legally possessed concealed weapons permit. He did everything he's supposed to do. The cop got scared because he's a big black guy with a gun and shot the man in front of his girlfriend with her daughter in the back. I mean, we all know the story. The NRA, not a peep. If they really represented their people who donate to their organization, they should have been there for Castile that quick.
Yep.
But they didn't. And it's not a bug, it's a feature. When a person of color gets killed by a cop or someone else with a gun, they're not there. You know what I'm saying? So the NRA is a problem. Let's be real. All those the gun manufacturers and stuff like that. Nerd says Northern California. It wasn't Minnesota. Oh, I got that one wrong then. Ooh, no, it was in Minneapolis. Yes. Okay, I'm confused on what Nerds is saying. Oh, he's from Northern California. That's my bad, Tom. But Tom, you need to get Mr. Alan Ellison on. Speaking of Tom, nerd, hey, ofthepeople.us. You need to go to his website, register, and tell him what you're all represent all your policies, and look for Yeah, Tom, I got you. I did ask you from the beginning, but yeah, this is another guy you need to get on your website. Tom, you need to get him in there and get an interview and get him on your website so you can find text bankers, phone bankers, social media volunteers or whatnot, right? And then people can find you as well. They're looking to volunteer, especially in your area. They go to Florida. We need to get. I want everyone to know what the hell's going on with ofthepeople.us. Just got to give that a shout out. Also, while we're here, guys, we're talking about donations. It's the very first comment. If you guys also, if you go to his Twitter page, it's right there on his Twitter handle, his Secure Act Blue link for donors. And do you got any target goals for this quarter you're trying to get to?
Yeah, we're trying to raise upwards of 500,000 for this upcoming goal.
Yes. So I believe the average U.S. Senate race is like $1.6 million.
The average one, but they're going to try to put up 115 million for this one.
That blows my mind, man. that really hurts to hear that kind of number and be like, yo, that is incredible.
Could you imagine if we take money out of politics? A lot of these politicians wouldn't stand a chance.
They wouldn't run. They would not be inspired to run. They'd be de-incentivized. That's a good thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's, the National Gun Registry, of course, the Federal Gun Registry makes the perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
I support the Constitution, and we have the right to bear arms, but it doesn't say what arms. It doesn't say machete. Machete is an arm, and so is a baseball bat. It doesn't mean you have to have 50 rounds in a banana clip, whatever. But that takes us to your next policy: is criminal justice reform.
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion in this particular call, and we've actually touched on criminal justice reform. But I want to bring your attention to something. You may be aware of it, but I know your audience definitely needs to hear me say this. We need criminal justice reform in this country. I was so happy to see that there was justice for George Floyd. But there are a lot of individuals that are like a George Floyd that do not get justice. There was a judge, I forget what state he was in, but there was a thing called cash for teens. And there are judges that are literally being paid money under the table from these private prisons to send African American teens to prison. So if you were to Google judge that went to prison for 12 years for selling teens to a prison, you will see that it was a scandal. But he wasn't the only judge that was doing that, and that's why we need to get rid of private prisons. Because not only are these prisons paying these judges under the table for increased sentencing, because that's how they make their money, by having bodies in those cells, but they're also paying money to these politicians in the form of dividends, because some of these politicians own stock in these prisons. And the other thing that they're doing is they are actually, thank you, they are actually making contributions into the campaigns. And so whenever you hear these politicians talking about, let me get tough on crime and all of this, I'm always leery, because I'm wondering, if you're getting tough on crime, or if you're the law and order candidate, is it because you have some type of vested interest in this private prison system? Or does the private prison system have some type of vested interest in you? The other thing is, one life lost due to the death penalty is one life too many. And if you look at what the Innocence Project is doing, every year they're getting at least 2 or 3 people off of death row. People who should not be there.
Yes.
We cannot afford to lose lives to a broken criminal justice system. We need to reform our criminal justice system. We need to reform our police departments. We need to make sure that we are pushing for the Justice in Policing Act. It did pass the House, but it is being held up in the Senate. And there should be a level of accountability. And if you are a member of the criminal justice system, or a member of the police department, or the law enforcement, then it should be a moral obligation upon you to want to have accountability. And that's what the Justice in Policing Act does. It pushes for accountability. We need accountability, and we can't have true unity in this country until we can first have a level of accountability that is acceptable to everyone. And so, yeah, I do support criminal justice reform, and I definitely support police reform. I think that we should create some type of 511 system, so that if an individual is causing a disturbance and that individual happens to have a mental health disorder, or may even be disabled in some way, we need to have a way for someone who specializes in those areas to be the first responders and not always law enforcement,
Yeah.
because it's,
Yeah.
what'd you say?
Be the lead, the point contact person. The cop can be there for safety, but only when you're asked to intervene, not just be like, I'm taking over. I don't trust them. I do like that type of approach. They're doing that in, I think California's passed a bill where they're actually going to have social workers show up for 911 calls if they're non-life threatening. That's
Yeah.
a great policy.
Yeah, I've gone through a police academy. I know that oftentimes law enforcement academies are teaching officers to meet force with greater force. And sometimes that's not always the best way to go. Sometimes de-escalation is the way to go.
It's the most
Especially,
efficient way to go.
what was that?
It's the most efficient way to go.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that we need to make sure that not only uh, are our officers getting the training that they need, but we need to make sure that the screening process is more effective than it has been in the past. Because here in Florida, there have been officers, I believe in Lantana, Florida, that were found to be part of the KKK.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean,
Missouri, their whole
yeah,
precinct got shut down because of white supremacists in their whole precinct.
yeah, really?
Yeah, Ferguson lost their police department.
Wow.
Yeah.
The thing is, for some white supremacist groups, they have initiations where they have to do heinous stuff to people of color. And oftentimes, if they are on police department forces, that level of implicit bias or racism, it will show up. And it will show up in ways that will look just like what happened to George Floyd. And for people to say, oh, it's just a few bad apples. Well, here's the thing, a few bad apples can spoil a whole bunch.
Yep.
And if there's close proximity and the people that are standing by are not holding their brothers accountable or their sisters accountable, then it makes the whole bunch look rotten. And so we have to really take into consideration that we can be critical of our law enforcement agencies, as well as be supportive. I support officers who are about fairness and about transparency and accountability. I support those officers,
Right.
but I don't support those officers who are looking to blow off some steam by beating someone's head in. I don't support those officers who are acting on implicit bias and harassing someone. I don't support that, and no officer should.
Do you support ending qualified immunity?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's one of the provisions that's a part of the Justice and Policing Act, also known as the George Floyd Bill.
Yes. I think that alone is the capitalist version of weeding out the best, pruning that tree with a bad apple, right? If you have a bad apple on your tree, you cut that limb off. If you have an apple that produces only bad fruit, you cut down that tree. If you have acreage that produces nothing but bad trees that make bad fruit, you stop growing fruit on that property. It's hazardous. It's not healthy soil. We have an entire soil problem here in our country when it comes to criminal justice. We can't produce really good fruit. It's polluted with racism. It's polluted with bigotry and misogyny, with xenophobia. I've met a few good cops, but they're powerless against the system. They don't get promoted, stuff like that. They don't get the leadership positions. Leadership matters. And to me, the police department is one where they need proper leadership, and it starts at the top.
Yeah, it's the same thing in Congress. There are a few members of Congress that want to do good. There are a few that I would consider are change agents. social engineers. And there are a lot of candidates that are like that. But the sad truth is that those candidates and those leaders usually are not in a financial position to be able to make it to the halls of power.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give an example. Here in Florida, in order for a candidate running for federal office to even get their name on the ballot, they have to first pay a $10,440 ballot fee. That alone cancels out a lot of social change agents, people that want to do good for our society. And the ones who normally make it are the ones who are connected to money. And it's sad. When I was studying this in college, there's a name for it. It's called the elite theory. And the elite theory means that people who have made it to a certain social economic status usually ends up running for office, and their money allows them to, it puts them above the competition. And those who are like I say, are change agents, those who are out here every day advocating on behalf of someone, marching, being civically engaging and just educating people, those ones that would do good in Congress, would do good in elected office, they can't mount up the finances to make it happen. And
That's
again,
why I'm worried by Cori Bush.
what was that?
I'm inspired by Cori Bush for that reason alone.
Yeah.
She made it to Congress as a single mother, struggling, then became one of the social leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement of Ferguson, Missouri, and then ran for Senate or Congress
Mm-hmm.
and won her first try. That is very, very unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking like less than 5%
Mm-hmm.
chance of anybody ever doing that.
Yeah. Very impressive.
But
All the way around.
every single district has that potential, though.
Mm-hmm.
I support the idea of term limits, but we already have them. It's called elections. Like, we need to get out these horrible leaders like Rubio. Really, really, really need to get him out of there. Jesus. Oh, that's my bad. I gotta change the thumbnail. I put down Congress and didn't put down Senate. I'll have to change the thumbnail. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Well, the House and the Senate still make up Congress. So
It's the congressional membership. I got an easy out. All right, I'll take it. But yeah, I like on your criminal justice, it includes, of course, mass incarceration, school to prison pipeline, obviously, and then legalization of marijuana. That's a big one too, because do you support the idea of expunging records?
yes,
You're out.
yes,
You're
yes,
automatically employable. That's what it's all about. That's what I think it should be. You serve
absolutely.
your time, you should be able to not be put on the bottom list because you have a record. It should be you served your time, man.
Mm-hmm.
Your debt to society. You should be employable. You can't be employable with this dark cloud hanging around your head.
Yep. Let me share something with your audience. You mentioned earlier that Florida voted to increase the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That doesn't go to $15 until 2026. It goes up incrementally every year. But what I wanted to point out, and this goes to a criminal justice reform matter, in the state of Florida, there is a senator, Senator Brandis. He is proposing, and he has a lot of support with Republicans on this issue, that for our returning citizens, not only have they been violated in terms of not having the right to vote restored to them, but Senator Brandis is trying to make it where they can't partake in the $15 minimum wage increase.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ron DeSantis is ready to sign that bill.
What's his name? I got to write him down.
Senator Brandis. He's a state senator.
Oh, for Florida. Okay.
Yep, but they don't want returning citizens to partake in the $15 minimum wage increase. And if we are about strengthening families, if we are about giving everyone who has done their time an opportunity, a second chance, then we shouldn't be excluding them from what the people have already voted for. I believe that 66% of the people in Florida voted for there to be a minimum wage for everyone, and they're trying to exclude people.
I won't even bother asking because there's no reasonable answer. So I guess I'm going to have to look into that. I'm gonna drag him through the coals for this one. I'm gonna go scorched earth on that sucker. I can't wait. That is dehumanizing as it comes.
Mm-hmm. So you take away their right to vote, and you take away their ability to make an honest living, and then you want to talk about reforming our people that go off to prison. How are you going to reform them and then put them back in the same predicament that probably got them there to start with?
Well, that will just increase recidivity rates.
Mm-hmm.
Aha.
Yep. Aha.
Hear why? I wonder who donates. That's what I'm saying. That level of corruption is criminal.
Yes.
It is criminal.
It's un-American. It's immoral.
It's inhumane.
Undemocratic.
Man. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'm going to dive into that and chew on that bone for a while. Oh, that really pisses me off because that just says that, because think about this. Where's the one place minimum wage doesn't apply? Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Now you get out of prison, it still doesn't apply to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's slavery.
Yep.
That's the 13th Amendment now in the public sector.
Exactly.
That is, who does that benefit? The business owners. I wonder what company might be okay with, hey, all of a sudden we'll hire inmates, ex-inmates. We'll hire people who have just been released now. We'll give them about $3.50 an hour. Is that cool? Cool.
So you're talking about 1.4 million individuals.
That's just, I don't know, man. That's gut wrenching.
Well, we talked about it earlier, and that is, if all policy, all laws, all leaders should always push for a way to push our society forward. Mm-hmm. Any policies, any laws, any leaders that are working to move our society backwards should not have a place in office.
No, they got to go.
Got to go.
Holy crap, man. That really got my blood boiling. Jeez Louise. Disgusting, man. And the only reason they're in office is because of money.
Yep.
That's the only reason there.
You take away the money, and these same individuals don't stand a chance.
They'll go back into being entrepreneurs. That's what they'll do. And they'll buy a politician.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like
They'll try. But if we take money out of politics, that's why I support the For the People Act. Right. A lot of these politicians won't even be in office, and if they even tried, they would have to come with something stronger than I raised millions of dollars for my campaign. Like, who cares?
Yeah. So we went through your policies. I like them. Of course, there's quite a few of them. And you said you're going to be doing an update soon.
Yes.
Let us know on Twitter. I'd like to come back and I'll dive through. I'll actually do a video and just look at the updates. I'll do the before and after one. But so I'm operating under the presumption that you win and you're in the Senate now in 2022. What is your top 3 agenda once you're there? What do you think are the top 3 most important things that you can do first? That first big push after the midterms.
I'll be honest with you. When I win, I'll be taking office in 2023.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. January. Yep.
So I don't know exactly what is going to be the pressing issue in 2023. Yeah, but if I were in Congress right now, I would think that the most pressing issues And here's the thing, I want the audience to understand. Everyone has issues that are near and dear to them. Not everyone feels that every issue that we're talking about is important. Everyone has a different issue. But if I had to choose three, I would choose the three that has the greatest impact to focus on. I know that most Congress people are already going to focus on the jobs and the economy. So that's pretty much etched in stone thing. But what they're not going to focus on, and it's three major issues, is equal pay for women, which affects millions of families. It's going to be uh, financing a Medicare for all system, and it's going to be making sure that the 61 million people living with a disability and the 2.8 million Floridians who have disabilities and the other million that are being denied year after year, that they have what they need to survive on a month-to-month basis. I don't believe that we will still be dealing with COVID by 2023. I think we will probably get beyond that by then. Um, and people are trying to work on that now. But those are the three issues that I think that I need to focus on, because it's the three issues that no other leader is.
I like it because, yeah, those are the most vulnerable. Healthcare, disabled people, seniors. Seems obvious.
Yep.
And I think the only other demographic not being represented in Congress is homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a term. I'm going to try and call myself, I'm a universalist now.
Mm-hmm.
I want universal healthcare, universal income, universal housing, and universal
Background checks.
well, that's also up there. But universal college access. I think everyone has access to at least a 2-year college for vocational purposes as well. We need more skilled trade labor here for kids to, like, if my kid could go into being a commercial elevator electrician and make $45 an hour with no debt. Holy crap, man. That changes your trajectory.
Yeah.
You're creating a fork in the road for them now. They have choices.
Yeah, the goal needs to be strengthening the families, and our campaign is about improving the quality of life of everyone. So even though I just answered your question about the three,
Yeah.
you see how extensive the website is.
Yes.
But it's going to become even more extensive than that, because on day one, I want to introduce 10 bills, 10. And so I'm writing, I'm analyzing the numbers, I'm looking at where we can get the revenue. And when that time comes, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to be ready to present those policy proposals. It's still too early to put that stuff out now, because I'm not in Congress and someone could take it and do it without me.
Yeah,
but I have been looking at this for quite some time.
Well, the big thing is, guys, go follow him on Twitter. That's where you get the most. That's politics, guys. Everything's on Twitter. You get his links to his channel, his website, links to his donation page. Hopefully, you guys will see him on ofthepeople.us. Then you can find. So if people want to, I'm gonna go back to your website. So the big thing, guys, you go back to his home page. Okay. There you go. So take action, guys. That's the tab. Volunteer. Here's the campaign. You can go find his events. When's your next event, Alan?
Friday. We have Fridays for Florida every single week, and it's a virtual discussion.
Okay. Oh yeah, this hasn't been updated yet. Then okay, that's why.
Yeah. Every Friday on Facebook, we have virtual discussions on the issues that matter most to everyone.
So all you guys that live in Florida want to do things on the ground, this is the place to be right here. Volunteer forms. You can volunteer to do all these different things, whatever you're, especially bilingual. I think that's a huge point that we need people, especially Spanish speaking in the southern part of the state, where it's mostly Cuban or a higher Cuban community. But yeah, so we need to get busy.
Show them where they can donate. It's on the homepage.
Yes.
Scroll down and then max out a contribution.
Wait a minute. Home first. It's on the top right corner, I think. Contributes. Bam. And there's the donations.
We can't see it.
Oh, snap. My bad, guys. So, you go to the homepage, top right corner right now, it says contribute. Bam, there's all your goodies. That's the easiest one. That's the Secure Act Blue link, of course, I have in the description box. Now, you said at the bottom.
Yeah, scroll down.
Oh, it's a long one.
No, are you on the homepage? You might be scrolling a little too fast. It'll be like little red buttons.
Oh, yeah, sign up for the email. Okay, campaign highlights. Let's see here. Oh, there they are. These ones?
Yeah. Yeah, just go on and max me out a contribution right there for $2,500.
Let's go. Oh, you know what? Just so you guys know, Bo the Fifth Column, he doesn't do interviews. I'm a huge fan of Bo. He is in Florida. He's a Floridian. I'm not sure. Do you know who Bo the Fifth Column is, Alan?
I've ran across his name before.
He's good. He's one of the people I aspire. Like I'm inspired by what he does. He does phenomenal content, and he is informed.
Thank you, Brock.
Yes, check him out. But Bo does have a second channel. I can't remember the name of it, where he actually is doing interviews with candidates. And he has a large reach.
Okay.
A huge reach. Oh my goodness.
Let's make it happen, Bo.
So Nikolai lives in Florida. Says, "Are you hiring? Where can I send a resume?"
Right through the volunteer site or page on the website.
Yep.
We're always looking to bring people on.
Take action. Volunteer tab. And here you go. They can contact you, and it's all in here.
Nikolai, where are you from?
Well, he said he's outside. He must be in the Orlando area. He was boycotting in Orlando. I'd imagine that's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
Until he comments something different. Yeah, Bo the Fifth Column in Florida, man, that guy's killing it. He does so many great things. Yeah, he did this like a holiday drive where he went to a children's, like it's a shelter for children that are coming out of foster care.
Mm-hmm.
Because the foster care to homelessness pipeline is a real problem too, where
yes, it is.
They have nothing. There's no infrastructure in place for them. There's no guidance. It's just like, you're out of the system. Good luck. Here's a $20 bill. Like, they have nothing, man.
Exactly.
And Bo goes to the shelter with young kids that are getting ready to tap out, and be aged out. And he goes there and gets them a tablet, gets them an internet card and supplies and stuff like that. And I think that is heroic.
Well, see, that's the kind of stuff I like. So we definitely got to hook up.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
I have a nonprofit. We do stuff like that as well. We do it not only here in Florida, but we do it in Africa as well. I'm actually helping to take care of about 100 widows over there. Oof. And feeding about 150,000 people for free with a farm and a hydroponics lab that I created over there.
Nice. Where's Miramar? Is that in Florida?
Yeah, that's over there by Broward County.
Okay. So that's like by Fort Lauderdale?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I've been down there before in the military. But yeah, man, we need more people on the ground, until the pandemic says it's time to shut it down again. And Florida's in a bad way right now, man, with this whole thing tonight.
Yep. Florida's leading the COVID numbers right now, and we have a governor that's basically killing people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And does not represent the people. So I don't know, guys. We just got to keep supporting people like Alan here and get him into office. ASAP. I can't wait to. I wish I could come to Florida. Honestly, I used to live in Jacksonville. I loved it down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was in the Navy in Jacksonville. It's of course it's changed over 20 years. Um, I used to like it. Whatever it is now, I have no idea what it is now. Um, yeah, yeah, exactly. Get Marco Rubio out of here. You damn right. Yeah. So okay. So what's the cutoff date for people getting registered to vote in the state of Florida?
I believe it's next year for sure.
Okay, so that's a good year to go. Okay.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
So the primary date is August 23rd, and then the general election is November 8th of 2022.
Mhm.
So I actually got started last November 23rd of 2020. So that's
2 year run. That's good.
Yep. So I've been running that long, and our numbers are continuing to grow. We're reaching about 10 million people every month with our online messages. And we're always looking to bring more people on. We have thousands of volunteers, and our tent is diverse. And we are empowering people because our campaign isn't just about a campaign to help me to win office. We actually work with down ballot candidates to help amplify them in ways that other candidates simply do not. One of the reasons we didn't do so well in Florida in the last election is because we didn't have any coordinated campaign efforts from those at the top. And so as a candidate running for a federal office, it's one of the things that I believe that we have an obligation to do, and that is help down ballot candidates and make sure that we have a candidate running in every single election in the state. So this is what leadership does. This is what we're doing. And we're going to work to unite Floridians, inspire them, because the last federal candidate to win Florida on the Democratic side was Obama in 2008, 2012.
Yeah.
And not only did he win over a lot of Democrats who traditionally don't get out to vote, but he won over some independents and some Republicans as well.
Yep.
And that's the power of having a message that transcends party lines. That's the power of having a message that is inclusive. And that is the power of being an inspiring figure. So again, I don't have the backing of the party. I don't have deep corporate donors. I don't have major media interviews every day. But even without all of that, our message is still reaching 10 million people every month. And our numbers are growing. And out of 22 candidates, as you pointed out earlier, aside from one, we are outdoing every one of them combined in terms of our reach. And that is with zero advertising, zero in terms of the amount of money that we've spent,
Right.
Zero. So it doesn't speak to anything other than viability, and it basically shows that the people are watching. And we're going to continue to build, and we're going to continue to make the issues a forefront of the campaign. And we're going to let the people know that there is a champion out here that's looking to represent their interests.
Well, I'll make sure that we can get Tom and connected with you with the Nerds for Humanity, and a few other people that I know. There's another channel called Mute the Media.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in California, but we got a couple people in Florida that's part of that group. That's also Floridians that might be interested in talking to you. So yeah, any parting words for the people?
I just want to thank the people for taking this time to be here with us, to be on the Trickle Up. This has been a very interesting, engaging, positive interview. I really appreciate you taking the time to interview me. Our campaign is always looking for volunteers. If you have enjoyed what we have had to talk about here today, then visit AlanEllison.com, become a volunteer. Your donations help us to reach further, It takes contributions to be able to get our message out. So please help us in any way that you can. We are in this together. It is my fundamental belief that if I can understand who you are, if we can have conversation, then I can begin to work on policies that will directly benefit your life. And being the most responsive candidate is something that I know a lot of you are very interested in, especially when you have issues with state and federal agencies and you can't get a message back from your senators. I know that that is frustrating, and it's something that I want to change, and it's something that we're working on right now. Our campaign is literally helping people right now. Just the other day, a young lady reached out to me, asked me for help because she needed a roof on her house. She was on a fixed income. There was no resources in her county. I took one tweet and put it out for people to help share in the cost of making sure she got what she needed. And in 24 hours, she was able to get everything that she needed from a single tweet. And that's being responsive. That's what leadership should be doing. But what you end up getting is ignored. And I refuse to ignore you. And that's why I hold the most town halls. That's why I hold the most public engagement conversations on the issues that matter. And this is what we should be doing. So I just want to thank you for taking the time. We've been here for an hour and 46 minutes.
Yes.
And
Always a minimum of an hour. It's a minimum of an hour.
it's been good. Thank you all so much.
So Brock just went. It's called The Roads with Bo. Thank you, Brock, for looking that up. So we already put a link to your website in his comment section on his latest video. So that's how we get shit done around here.
Thank you, Brock.
That's
I
awesome.
appreciate you.
All right, guys. Appreciate you guys being here with it again, Mr. Alan Ellison. Thank you for first of all, for your service. Period. You're trying to do the right thing the best way you know how, and that's a brave thing to do. Is put yourself out there for public dissection.
Yeah.
And it's that's an overwhelming thing, man. It really is a daunting task to say, you know what, I'm gonna let these people, whoever finds me to be a danger or a threat to their system, is gonna come dissect my life and expose me.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm not perfect. No one is, and it's not about perfection. But what it really is about is finding someone who's gonna work hard for you to make sure that you have a better quality of life. And so for that reason, I put myself out there, I put my neck on the line, but I think that the people are worth it.
Absolutely, man. All right, guys, thanks for joining us, man. I'm gonna make some clips of this. I'm gonna chop this thing up, make it a little easier to consume for others as well. They might have shorter attention spans. That's fine. But I'll just keep tagging you on Twitter and stuff too.
And I'll keep amplifying it.
Anywhere else people can find you on different social media platforms you want them to check you out on?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I mean, the team over on TikTok, we have about 3 trending videos over there. They have gone viral. And Facebook, where we do a lot of our lives. We do lives on Instagram. So you can basically find me under Alan Ellison on all of the social media platforms. We're on Clubhouse. We're on every one of them. So if you happen to be on a social media network, just type in Alan Ellison and look us up and join the conversation.
Yep. So on TikTok, guys, it's Alan Ellison, U.S. Senate, all one word. No dashes, no nothing. Dude, you got 30,000 followers on there. That's pretty impressive.
In a couple of months.
That's pretty impressive, man. It's awesome. But yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm gonna keep paying. Oh, no wonder. I got 2 channels. I didn't follow you on both channels. That's why. But yeah, guys, so check him out, support his content, support his campaign, man. So again, guys, thanks for your time. We're gonna go ahead and kill it. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you so much.